as I was trying to stop sharing the screen, it stopped the broadcast. Anyway, I'm not gonna sweat that. Whenever you guys get back to this way, there we go. But they, anyhow, as I was saying about the moron and the unlearned, is that the moron will read that same information and then try to misconstrue it. The two biggest things about it, as I was saying, bless you, bro. Well, is that is that it becomes an activity of discerning information. Once again, they tried to say that the Germanic tribes were all these other guys, right? And even tried to throw in, they tried to incorporate groups of people who are famous and are known as they were lesser. Does that make sense to anybody? You know, I mean, like, does that actually make sense to you as a grown-ass individual? Think about that for just one moment. We're all grown here. You know what I'm saying? We're all grown. So the fact that we even would even be in a situation where people are like, oh, they're all the same people. No, they're not the same people. No, they're not. They're not even close to the same people. You know, they're not even close. You know, the quick recap, bro. The quickest recap I can give you, Pimp, because you know the YouTube did some funny stuff, bro. So before I was just trying to stop sharing, and the end of the broadcast out of nowhere, because they had them both really close together. Even though I was quite sure I hit the stop sharing button. All I talked about, bro, was Germanic history, and pretty much how Germanic tribes are the people who took over what is known as Rome, right? But that's not the big deal, though. The big deal is the Germanic people, these people, understand this, dog, are given credence for being genetically related to people that they had nothing in common with. You have to understand that when the Franks, Visigoths, Vandals, and all those guys were fighting, a lot of the time they prayed to the same gods or the same gods of the same pantheons. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't when they merged together, there was no need, there was no culture grab. You understand? And when it said that the Ostrogoths, the Burgundians, and the Visigoths had become partially Romanized, well, I had read to you that under Clovis, but that was in the Common Era, right on AD was when they had became partially Romanized, because the Romans fought tooth and nail to not allow these savage barbarians come into their lands and mate with them. Now, people are like, the Romans were savages too. They did this and that to other folks. I'm like, I hear you, but let's talk about history for a moment. Real history. If you look at the time when Hannibal showed up trying to fight the Romans in Rome, you'll understand that this was a time when the Japhetites needed their Hamite brethren to come and help them fight. Right. You'll understand when the Moors invaded what is known as the Byzantine Empire and all these other places. These were Japhetites who were still holding on, clinging to their genetic existence, who needed their Hamite brethren to come in and do something for them. Yep, sure did. So these are small things that people have to recognize and really, pay keen attention to. Once again, I'm gonna pull up the screen so that way I can get you up to speed, And this time I'm gonna make sure it doesn't do this to me because I'm gonna minimize this other screen and we're not gonna let that happen. One moment. Bam, bam, bam. Bang. Rise of the Francs. And we're just gonna hit these guys real quick across the head. So the rise of the Francs. I call them Francs because it's called France, not France. So we're just going to read this right here. The Roman Empire did not fall. No, it did not. It didn't fall. No, it didn't. Okay. But I'm trying to explain to you guys why the Romans went to what you know today as Ireland and invaded the sovereignty of their not Roman, but their Japhetic brethren who were on the island with them. Can you dig it? Because that's how the cookie crumbles. They went somewhere where they were already genetically related to the people. They already are the people. So they didn't have to worry about what everybody else was worried about. You follow me? That wasn't one of their that wasn't something that they had to ever care about ever. I think the biggest crime that we're actually seeing, though, above a lot of this stuff, is the crime of complacency. You see, a person can read this, right? And read what it says right here. The Visigoths, Ostrogoths, and Burgundians and Vandals actually tried to restore and preserve much of Roman imperial culture and its institutions. Stop! How could you be a welter of a lesser group of the Indo-Europeans, but you were famous before the Ostrogoths, before the Visigoths, before the Burgundians, and your history is not shrouded in mystery, right? The only reason why we even know about the Germanic tribes are because of the Romans and the Greeks. Think about that for just a second. But yet they're a lesser group. So that means that you have to really read what people are trying to say. This dude who wrote this, or the chick who wrote this, was trying to diminish the smaller groups, such as the Latins and the Greeks. So listen, that means that the Latins and the Greeks were not in as heavy as populous numbers as all these other groups that besieged them. They were besieged by what is said, murderous savages, okay? Barbarous hordes of murderous savages. Once again, a moron will have read all of this and will try desperately to fit pieces together that don't fit together. Listen, tribes from Scandinavia, right? Now, if people want to see something about the Scandinavians, hold on, let me go ahead and pull up another page. Bam. Right here. Bam. Where we be at? Slavs, ancient history. Come on. Come on. And we can vet Christian Violati. You can vet this guy, right on. But I just want to go ahead and just touch something from you real quick. When we skip all this, well, we're going to read this real quick. Just real quick. The Slavic languages, all of which belong to the Indo-European language family. Little known is about the Slavs before they are mentioned in the Byzantine records of the 6th. So 6 CE. So 6 BCE is when they're first mentioned. And most of what we know about them prior to this time is mainly derived from archaeological and linguistic studies. Stop. Do y'all understand what I'm saying right now? The origins of the Germanic tribes is lost in the sands of time. What little is known is based upon linguistic evidence. Can you dig it? Well, let me see if they're gonna try to play me again. Wow. Damn. They didn't hit me with the double tap this time, y'all. Last time they hit me with the double tap, I came up and all of a sudden stop broadcast was what happened. Look, bro, it's not about making nobody feel hella smart. It's about empowering you. Jeff, you want to throw that chicken down? I said, throw that chicken down?
Yeah.
It's hot. It's hot. I thought you plugged it in already, but then I realized you didn't. You know, because I realized I had told you not to. So, yeah. But just lightly season it, bro. Lightly, because we're gonna season it again when it's done. Right on. Because I'm gonna put the barbecue sauce shit on it in a second. So pass me the when you come back, pass me the ketchup and the open brown sugar in a small bowl, please. Thank you. But no, bro, it's not about making nobody feel smart or dumb. It's about showing people what the information is, man. You know, and giving people the damn proper tools. Because one of the biggest issues that I've felt and that I've had in the past is like I'll be 1,000 with you guys. I listen to a lot of people I don't agree with. I know you guys are like, why? Because you have to understand their point of view. Okay. You have to get the opposition. And it doesn't necessarily make them your enemy that they're the opposition, but because they oppose you and they're in contradictory of what it is that you stand for, you have to treat them adversarial at least. So you don't have to treat them like no mercy, no surrender, no damn retreat, and no quarter, no. But you have to be ever present in mind of what it is that other people are trying to impose. I give you a prime example. One of the guys that I listen to quite regularly that I don't always agree with. I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says, but he knows how to talk, so I can, because he knows how to talk, it's bearable to listen to him. His name is a Professor Black Truth. I'm pretty sure you guys, you know what I'm saying, have probably heard of this guy before. But brothers like him, you know, he could do live streams if he chose to, and he would have, you know, hundreds, if not, you know, 1,000 people watching him, you know, because he's a crowd favorite. But I know that gentlemen like him do two things though, is that they speak at you and they don't speak to you. You see what I'm saying? You know, that's one of my biggest issues with most guys is that when they're, you know, like when they've reached a certain level of intellect, you know, they sometimes will usurp all that is good and righteous about other people for the sake of, I don't know what for the sake of, but they'll do it because they think that if they demean or diminish the intellectual foundation of another person, that makes them more intelligent. But in fact, all they've done is thin the ranks even more of people who can help them. Because I'm not going to be willing to help a person who attacks my intellect constantly and repetitiously. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You know, because one of the biggest problems that we have right now as people is being under attack constantly. You know, there's not one black person who's going to tell me that they've never had something racist said to them. You know, but when you have a guy like him who makes it a point to try and, what's the word I'm looking for? So, for example, is it about race? Is it about race if the cop that killed you was a dirty cop who took money from black drug dealers? You understand what I'm saying? Because he would take the same money from white drug dealers if he could. It might be a little less, but he might feel a little safer dealing with white people. So when people say the things that they say, there has to be a foundation as to why they say it. Because me as a black man, I already know what it is that I'm up against. You know what I mean? I know the world hates my black ass. I know that there's only so much room to be polite and kind to the whole entire earth. You know, I know when I leave my home, it's dangerous outside. But back to the moron and the unlearned is that you know, Brother Steven said that I have an uncanny ability to read between the lines, but it's the Most High just working with my mind and me allowing the Most High to work with my mind, you see? Because I don't fight what it is that can't be argued anymore. The Most High shows us time and time again how hateful people are. Let me show you how hateful these people are. They told you that the Latins and the Greeks were a lesser group than the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Burgundians, and all these groups. But yet we don't know a fucking thing about the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Burgundians, or none of them. So how does that work? Right. How is it that a lesser group introduced a greater group into history? Explain that to me. Think about that for a second, y'all. How did the lesser group introduce the greater group into history? Think about that for a moment. And this is my problem with people who like to talk over us. You know what I'm saying? They like to speak at us. They like to talk at us, but they don't like to talk to us. And I'm talking to you. You know, if you feel like I'm talking at you, I don't mean to talk at you. I'm talking to you. That's my point. That's my problem. That's my beef. It will always be my beef because they can't tell me with enough good words why a lesser group of the same genetic class introduced a greater group of the same genetic class. I don't understand it. I will never understand it. Ever. You're talking about the Greeks are some of the most famous people from the Mediterranean area. Period. Some of the most dominant people ever. And you're telling me that a dude who or a chick or whoever wrote the articles, once again, I didn't pull up no Wikipedia, you know, and I'm not knocking Wikipedia, but sometimes Wikipedia, in order to get the right information, here, Jeff, you have to get to the sources where Wikipedia has it from, because there's a lot of people on Wikipedia who are credible. They're professors, they're doctors, they're all that stuff. Then again, there's a lot of guys on Wikipedia who will go there and they will change the information out of spite. So we have to just be ever present and aware of what it is that we're dealing with as people. You know, this is, I don't know how to explain it and how to put it in better terms. But the moron is not unlearned. Can you dig it? The people who put that shit together are morons. The dude who said, I quote, and I'm going to show you. We're going to share that again because I'm going to show you what a moron does, the difference between a person who's a moron and somebody who's unlearned, you know, because this guy's a moron. Or chick, don't matter. But look, it says right here, The origins of the Germanic tribes is lost in the sands of time. What little is known is based upon linguistic evidence. Stop. A moron, only an idiot would say that and then say something that the first written records of the Germanic tribes was by the Roman historian Tacitus in 98 BCE. I'm going to go back up because only a moron would have said this before all of that. The Western branch split into ancestors, etc., 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 as well as a welter of smaller groups such as those of the Latins and Greeks. Stop right there. Is that not it? Is that not it? I want y'all to take that in for a second. Does that not make them a moron? Exactly. Second sausage chicken up. So I'm just saying, this dude is a moron. This dude is an idiot because he's not unlearned. An unlearned person couldn't have put all this information together. You understand that? They're an idiot because they can't read between the lines of what they put on the fucking page. Excuse my language. Their own words contradict what they're saying. How did a lesser group of people introduce you to the world, yet they're part of a group of people whose origins are lost in the sands of time? Yet the Romans have clear history. What? Come on, man. Where do they do that at? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Where do they do that at? Where? What land? What continent? What place could you tell me that is done at? One moment, brother. I'm just not getting back to the page. It's a question. I know it's off topic, but I was talking to this lady and she was going. Okay, let me go ahead and get to that in a second, Stephen. But I got to focus on this for just a half a moment, bro. An unlearned person would never have the ability or the time to present that information the way that was just presented. You understand? Never. They wouldn't have had that ability because they're unlearned, right? And then them being unlearned, they would have never presented it in a sense that they were learned. You're all right, bro. I'm gonna get to that in a second. Just give me a second. But the unlearned would never. They don't have the foundation of information to present such an argument. Whereas a moron, an idiot, can be very well learned, could know a whole lot. And they're an idiot because how they conduct themselves. Right. Right. They're an ignoramus because of what? Because you want to say that they're ignorant, but really they're not ignorant. They're not totally ignorant. They're not totally despondent of knowledge. There's not a clear absence of them not knowing anything. You know, I think one of the biggest issues right now with people is knowing whether or not, like, for example, I see a lot of people who will be like, 40, 50 years old, and they won't know something. And then it's like, they really get down on themselves about it. And I'm like, I don't see the point in getting down on yourself because first off, you're still alive. So that's number one. Even though you're unlearned, you're not some dead idiot, some dead moron. Right on. Number two, there's still time for you to become learned in this area. So when I meet people who feel as if their ability to learn or their capacity to learn is age based, I always get sad about that. That's one of the things that makes me most upset, because you should never feel that your age or your capacity for knowledge is what is going to save you or not save you. Um, the idiot. The idiot is so freaking dangerous. The imbecile. The more look, they try to discern between an idiot and an imbecile and a moron. And I'm just gonna say that an idiot is somebody who I would say is suffering from a percentage of 50% or greater, just like the imbecile, 50% or greater of retardation of the mind. A moron is somebody who is suffering from a quarter or less of retardation of the mind. I think all people have done things that a moron will do. I think we've all played the place of a moron, where not being unlearned, but still not doing what is in our better knowledge to do. That is a moron. So, as opposed to accepting that the groups of the Romans and the Grecians were simply conquered by a totally foreign foe who no one knows about, even the people who write about them, as opposed to saying that, no, they say, nay, all these people are under the Indo-European umbrella. Only the Germanic races of them, whom they try to claim that the Latins and the Greeks are different, yet the same, are these people. Only a moron could do that, because the unlearned does not have the knowledge, the mind to do that. They don't have the information to do that. Let me pull up another thing for y'all real quick. Hold on. I gotta find the page first. But while I'm looking for the page, let me go ahead and address what you said, Mr. Steven. Too much to type so long. Story short, her mom had a blood transfusion and got hella blood from a black guy. And after 11 months, she was born, so she says she's black. Okay, so if this person does not have the phenotype of a black person, they're not. I don't give a fuck about no blood transfusion, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, she can't tell you. Look, bro. They used to say that one drop of Negro blood made you a black person. I don't know the name of the movie, but older people have seen this movie. And it's a punk ass white boy who's in love with the black chick, and they come around to do the Census Bureau. And he cuts the woman's hand, and he cuts his hand, and he puts his hand on hers, and he says, "I'm officially black." So essentially, that's what a blood transfusion is, dog. So just because her mom had the blood of a black man put into her body because the blood was compatible, stop, not blood type, blood was compatible. Can you dig it? But she's still alive. That means that, number one, the woman herself is not full white. Number two, with that said, is that the man himself may have had gentilic blood within his own body, which is what made his blood probably compatible to the woman. And then we don't know what kind of black man he was. So with all that, said, that's just how I have to take that, brother. Now let me go ahead and try to find my little research. It's about that time. Oh yeah. Jeff is a bad man. He hopped in there right before work. He's about to put a little bowl of rice and chicken together.
I don't think I'll be able to get rice. I don't think so.
Oh, fuck, let's go chicken. Chicken at least. At least he gets some chicken. But anyway, I'm looking for this this one. Not the Rise of the Frogs. Nope. I'm looking about this it's about the Grecians. 1 second. I think it's at the top. My little list. Yep, Greece timeline. Okay, let me pull that up. Bam. All right. Now let me bust everybody's head wide open. Because I know that it's easier to believe that the white guys aren't lying and that Meech, he just, he tripping. But let me go ahead and show you how much I'm not tripping. Look at this. Look at this. 8,000 BCE, the Mesolithic period. Evidence of burials found in Franchiti cave of Argolid, Greece. Stop. Stop, 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 stop. They don't even know where the freak these guys came from. They don't even know where these guys came from. But the Grecians know where they came from. Let's just work our way to 500 BCE. Okay, we're going to skip past all this beautiful stuff. Do you see how many things I had to skip past? Look. Look. We're not even seeing these dudes yet, yo. Okay? We're not even seeing these dudes yet, yo. Are you understanding? Do you see invasion of barbarians anywhere? Huh? Let's just go back up so that way you don't think I'm lying to you. Look. Then no, that shit don't exist. Okay? It's not real. That the dude who said that don't know what he's talking about. And that's why he said, let's go back to 98. Look. Romans sacked by Sulla. Romans led by Sulla sack Athens. Listen, Romans invasion of Greece. You know why? Because getting around these times, they were being invaded by the freaking barbarians. Y'all got to really get the whole thing of it. Okay? They was being invaded by these dudes already. This is why, anyway, man. But they know their history. When it's all said and done, they know their history. So who gonna argue that? Who gonna argue what I just showed them? 30 BCE, the death of Cleopatra, end of ancient Greece period. Okay? That's the end of it. I don't see how a person, I just don't get it, man. You know what I mean? Let me see what's going on. What up, JP Hope? You hear this guy? This guy, Steven, said, you're the real MVP. He might be the sojourner that gets the string, you know what I'm saying? The stranger or the sojourner, the proselyte, whatever. I don't know what Jeff thinks he is. Okay? Jeff is Jeff. Anyhow, let me tell you what it is, though. These people are lying. They're morons. They're not unlearned. They're very well learned. Every one of those websites I showed you were with people who probably went to college, did this, did that, right? And are still trying to figure out where they come from because they're white people. They're like, dude, some of this shit doesn't make sense. Bless you. Welcome. And then you got other guys who accept it, that they're not all the way human. They're like, yeah, bro, I don't think we're from here. At least not the ways that other people are. You pull up another little. I like these little. I like this. Yeah. One of these days I'll get into it and I'll actually read some of this stuff. Because the guy Clovis is very interesting. Lewis is the derivation of the name. But a very interesting individual because he's a Christian, right? And he's the guy, he takes over Rome officially, you know what I mean? And he's the one that really pushes Christianity, not the Romans. So even when you guys say Roman Catholic, you have to realize that when people say pagan, that's an umbrella term because the pantheon for the Romans and the Greeks differ greatly from the Scandinavian tribes and the Anglo tribes. Thor and Zeus don't have nothing in common. Nothing. Thor would get smashed on by Zeus. So it's like when you look at the pantheons, even those don't line up and actually fall together, seamlessly. There's so many different things that I just have to really, speak about. It's a it's a it's a learning experience, right? You know, it's a learning experience, you know. We're this is just funny, you know. We're going through a lot of stuff, you know. We're going through a lot of stuff as people where they want your mind to be warped and demented. They want you to believe that the Germans are the predecessors to the Romans and the Greeks. Yet the Romans and the Greeks have clear history. They go back to 8000 BCE. Yeah, there's no history of the Germans at 8000 BCE. Not even evidence of cave dwelling. So, who are you to believe? Who are you to believe? Now, once again, do I think that these cave dwellers were just stupid, didn't know nothing? No, I think that they were much more sophisticated than people will ever give them credit for being. But that's neither here nor there, and that's not important. What's important is we've tried already to show the people what it is. You see what I'm saying? We've tried. We've tried to show people how it works. We've tried. It don't work. You can't make people accept what they don't want to accept. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Everybody wants to tell you that you're African, but there's people in Africa who don't even physically resemble you. So where did those people come from? Right. Right. I'm not going to pull up another page because the one I was going to pull up, I gave up on it. I think what I might just do though, one second, is I might I might have what's the word I'm looking for? I might just show you guys this thing right here. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Okay, so let me go ahead and see something. Let me show you something to you. Let's go. 1 second. Share. Bam. 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 And antediluvian. Share. And let's get to the moron talk one more time. And the unlearned talk one more time. The antiquity of some of our great inventions. So I've always tried to tell you guys that wherever Noah came from, he came from like a advanced civilization. You know what I mean? For him to have built an ark, even if it was out of wood, right? He would have had extensive knowledge to how to do certain things, specific things. So the submarine, which is what I'm quite sure the ark more resembled than a boat, that Noah was in, you know, is ancient technology. It's not brand new. So when we read stuff like flight, you know what I mean? It's, you know, 1 second. If my readers are satisfied that the Atlantean were a highly civilized maritime people carrying on commerce with regions as far apart as Peru and Syria, we must conclude that they possess some means of tracing their course in the great seas they traverse. Stop. I've already told y'all before, many times before, that Noah is and was an Atlantean. Let me go ahead and stop right here. The unlearned person, the moron, can't tell you nothing because they don't know nothing. You understand? They don't know nothing because they don't know nothing. So this is what it boils down to. If Noah was an Atlantean, which I really truly do believe he was, and had maritime experience, had maritime knowledge, why is that so hard to believe that he built a submarine? I mean, just think about this for one moment. Cain built the first city that you know about, which he named after his son. He named it Enoch. There's generations that pass until people invent or create or do anything. Everybody that creates or does something is in the bloodline of Cain. Who's the bloodline of who? Adam. Thank you very much. So even when people want to argue that, oh, Cain is this or Cain is that, or no. Cain is the first architect, the first mason, the first, a lot of things. Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate that, buddy. I got you, dog. All right. Got everything? Make sure, bro. Take your time, man. So, however, we're dealing with a group and class of people who would rather believe that the Romans and the Grecians were a lesser branch of Indo-Europeans. Okay? Lesser. Though one moment they introduced the same groups known as Indo-Europeans to the earth. How does that work? Tell me. Somebody explain that to me, please, because it doesn't make any sense. Only a moron could believe that. Only a moron. Because the unlearned doesn't mean he ain't got no sense. Doesn't mean that if he hears something that doesn't make sense, he's going to believe it just because he's unlearned or she's unlearned. It means that they don't know. So they don't know what to think about it. But for a man or a woman that is learned, oh, they know better. They know more than better. And this is why you can't let people dictate the terms of the information that you're reading or that you're seeing, because it's normally coming from a person who's a moron. I'm just going to let you know that straight up. Most information that we get coming from morons, coming from somebody who knows better and will willingly tell you something else. Willingly lie to you and say, check this out. Even though we can go back and look and find the Grecians and their history 8,000 years ago, plus or better, we can't find history of the same people that they're claiming that they're related to, who we say are of a greater group. Now, are they saying that they're a greater group because this group still exists to this day in mass? Right. You see what I'm saying? The person who probably wrote that is probably a white Germanic person. I wouldn't doubt it. Who has biased feelings towards you. Mad that when they went and looked into the actual history of their people, they couldn't find their own history. Let's say that you could find the Germanic people 500 BCE in the history of the damn Grecians or the Romans. That's still 7,500 years of unaccounted history. Where did you come from? And call me stupid. Call you stupid. Call us stupid. I might be unlearned. That's fine by me. I take being unlearned. But they're morons. Can you dig that? It's the only logical thing. When Noah was born, Noah's father went to his father, who in turn went to his father and petitioned him, right? Now, what's so special about this, what's so important about this, is because when Enoch was petitioned by his son Methuselah, because of his son Lamech, Methuselah had to go he had to go to the ends of the earth to go to his father. Well, he didn't walk there. How did he know how to build a boat? How did he know how to do any of that? What race of people could we say were around back then? What group or tribe of people could we say were around back then? Right, the Atlanteans. I don't know of any other groups. So Abraham, he's a Chaldean. Abraham was born and raised in Chaldea until they moved. Abraham's a Chaldean. Abraham is a Chaldean. The term Hebrew means one who passes over the great river Euphrates. Now, that's what they tell us now. But the term Hebrew could mean traitor. It could very well mean traitor, because how could the Bible talk about Chaldeans taking the Israelites captive, but the Chaldeans weren't considered Hebrews, but they had to cross over the same rivers Euphrates? It doesn't even make sense unless one person doesn't plan on going back to Chaldea. Think about it. I can't be a Hebrew and the guy who came from Chaldea with me be a Hebrew. But because you hate me and are chasing after me, now you're not a Hebrew. No, you're a Chaldean. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. And with the same genetic stock, the same genetic race, but you're not a Chaldean, but I'm a Chaldean? No, that doesn't make sense. I think the only logical notion is that there's no written races of people in the times of Noah. Not one tribe is mentioned. Think about that. Right. I can't stress it enough. Deity worship does not happen until after the flood. War, actual wars. Now, we know that there were wars before the flood. How we know this? Unless the guys in Middle Earth came back up here with a beef to take over, warring and the idea of soldiering and fighting were concepts that were already on the planet before. They didn't develop those concepts in Middle Earth. How I know is because they came back up and took over kingdoms that had already been established. They took over kingdoms. I'll give you a prime example. Who was I talking to the other day? Might have been Andre. Might have been Andre. I think it was Andre. Where he was talking about the Egyptians. He's seen this. No, I lie. My boy Ed. My boy Ed was telling me about how the old school Egyptians believed that there were three different kinds of humans, right? And one of the types of humans didn't have souls. They were soulless. One of them were soulless humans. And it goes into what I've been saying for a long time, you know, that when the Most High first made the first people, they didn't have souls. Who wants to hear that? Nobody. Because it's easy for everybody to say, forget that. You get what I'm saying? It's easy for everybody to say, no, that's bullshit. I just don't know what people perceive. While I'm still here with you, here we go. Holy smokes. Verse 1, chapter 32 of the Genesis. And Jacob departed for his journey. And having looked up, he saw the host of God encamped. And the angels of God met him. And Jacob said when he saw them, this is the camp of God. And he called the name of that place encampments. Stop. A moron will tell you that hosts are his physical armies of people that are on the earth right now, right? That's what they'll tell you. I swear. Though it says he saw the host of God. What? And by the word host, it's a symbol and it means camp. So for you to tell me that a man saw the camp of God and that wasn't the camp of God, no, that was something else. That wasn't the angels. Hell no. What? Only a moron could tell you that. The unlearned will tell you that they don't know what they just read. So I tell y'all, why would Jacob say he looked up and seen the encampment of the Most High, the host of the Most High? So the word host, they put there because that wasn't the original word. You understand that? They implanted that word host. Because whatever Jacob truly saw, actually saw, was something totally different. I appreciate y'all because you give me a chance to express my mind. You give me a chance to speak myself, or to speak for myself. Back to Abraham real briefly. Tammy, did you ever perceive that Abraham was a battle mage or a wizard? This is true. The Chaldeans, if you look into their history, they're known as skilled enchanters, sorcerers, and wizards. Known for this. I think I read the thing last week where Nebuchadnezzar summoned the wizards, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, or whatever group, and the Chaldeans, right? Because the Chaldeans were skilled at all the things that of the groups that he summoned. The Chaldeans are also known as people who helped usher in what is the Bronze Age. Abraham was a special man. Abraham had the ability of hand-to-hand combat, that skills, and then he also had what I know is keen understanding of what people call esoteric knowledge. When I say keen understanding, maybe back then he may have been novice to the experts, but to a person like us, his skill and level of expertise was beyond words. I think that there's more to the situation than people want to recognize. There's morons all throughout the Bible. One of the biggest morons is in the book of the Kings. And the reason why I call him a moron is because he goes and tells King David, even though he knew King Saul killed himself on a sword, fell on his own sword, he went in his mind and told King David that I killed King Saul. So when he did that, he created a situation where King David and the other men lamented. They were all sad. And then King David asked the guy, pretty much, how did you work up the nerve to kill the anointed of the Most High? Like, how did you work up the nerve for that? And then David ordered one of his men to come down and kill that guy, right? Now, mind you, If you've ever read the commandments, if it will tell you the Most High does not feel bad for anybody that perjures themselves. Right on? So not only does he not want you to lie, but he's like, don't lie on yourself. Now that dude lied on himself. That dude said he did something that he didn't do, and it cost him everything. I think one of our biggest issues with people like him is that we don't really realize that they're morons until the last moment. You think King David wanted to kill that guy? You think King David woke up was like, yeah, I'm killing this dude? No, he didn't even know that he didn't know bad news was coming until later on. So for a person to tell you that they've done something that they know that they haven't because they're seeking your favor, that tells you everything. Tells you how stupid they are. Know what, sister? I'm lost. I'm totally lost. But is there anything that you want me to research and look up right now? I'll share the screen. Any subject that anybody wants to look up right now? Anything. While I wait for Sister Bowser to get back to me, I'll wait for you guys to also say yay or nay on that. Otherwise, I'll just carry on about people who don't know shit and people who think they know something and don't know nothing. Because when I do this video on the unlearned, of course, yes, you didn't know? You didn't know? I have a question for you. What do you perceive when the Most High says, I shall rise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation? Now, one moment. If I've just said that Abraham was a Chaldean, right? Unless you really believe that Iraqis are going to get lifted up by the Most High, I'm pretty sure a bitter and a hasty nation, bitter explains the feeling of a lot of black people in America. Just what it is. Damn, Steven. All right, man. Give me a second. And yes, we're Chaldeans, sister. Here's my question for you. Just because Cain killed Abel, does that make Cain no longer Adam's son? Because that's an honest question. Just because he killed Abel, does that make him no longer Adam's son? And if not, then I guess sure we're not Chaldeans. But Just because you change your name doesn't change who you are. Nobody wants to fess up to that because that's rough. That's rough. So you pick one, dude, and I'm gonna do the one that you pick, bro. It's not hard to be bitter about some shit. That's why the word says be angry but sin not. Now, if the Chaldeans are going to inherit tabernacles not their own, and the Most High is going to destroy 2/3 of his people, it would be fitting if guys who were all Hotep, Hotep, and all that stuff, who couldn't care less about the Most High, if they felt any kind of endowment of fortitude, that they wouldn't do just that. Take things that are not theirs. The Chaldeans were much more than wizards, sister. They were skilled enchanters, sorcerers, all of it. All of it. They were all that in a bag of chips. This is what makes them so hateful. Because they know more than the regular guy. The regular dude can't do what they do. Yep. Well, I'm gonna pull this up, Steve. Look, this bullshit ass show, right? Bible. Looking for Paul was an orphan. One moment. Paul was an orphan. I'm trying to find the thing, man. I used to have the damn link. For some reason, I don't have it anymore. I don't know where it's at. I can't find it. Uh, I'm not going to use Paul. Forget Paul. I'm going to talk about something else. Let's talk about Middle Earth, dog. Fuck it. I'd rather do Middle Earth anyway, because I hate Paul. I really do. I just don't have time for that dude, bro. He's got what he wants. You know what I'm saying? He's got what he wants, what he wanted from all this stuff, and people listen. I'm not going to be mad at Paul because people, once again, the morons listened to him. The unlearned didn't know what to think. That guy's a moron, dog. I hear you. I hear you, bro. Look, man. All I can say about this whole flat Earth, Middle Earth stuff, dude, is there's caves on the planet that are underground. I mean, the fact that people will can and will and pretty much don't have to worry about nothing, right? It tells you everything. You know, tells you everything. You know, bro. As I'm trying to find these pages, right? Some of these pages have been brought down. So, like one of the pages that I had was this thing called Conspiracy Revelation, right? In German, it's telling me that the page can't be reached. So, let me see, man. If this one is still working. Okay, this one is still working. Let me show you this. That almost pissed me off just then. 1 second. Okay. So let's look at this. You understand? It's all in German. But I have this same picture in English. I've showed you guys this same shit a bunch of times. They've been to inner Earth, to Middle Earth. Right on? Look, they got maps of the Third Reich where they were several secret passages depicted were used by German U-boat to access mysterious underground regions, as well as a complete map of both hemispheres and the mysterious kingdom of Agartha. Come on, man. I can't get carried away in this stuff right now because I'm gonna send you the link, and then that way you can discern what you want to discern from it. But it's a lot going on, bro. Why once again, who would make that shit up? I want you to think about this. Who has the time? If Noah is an Atlantean, who is Noah's sons? Shem, Ham, and Japheth, correct? Who is Abraham's ultimate progenitor? Shem. So if the Chaldeans are skilled enchanters and sorcerers and stuff like that, I could just assume that most of that knowledge was what they learned from Sem before he started making civilizations of his own, or his children did. We have to realize that a lot of the same information, knowledge, and technologies were available in many of the ancient world. A lot of the technologies that the Grecians enjoyed, such as chariots and things like that, the Egyptians enjoyed. But these people are related genetically. So we have to understand that the basis of understanding still goes back to where they come from. That's my point, is that even though Abraham's not an Atlantean by birth, he's no less an Adamite by birth. He's still very much an Adamite, right? So until we go back into the base knowledge of the fact that Cain is the first accomplisher of any actual great task, Mm-hmm. People overlook that. Yeah, his brother garnered favor from the Most High, but after he killed him, did it say Cain went on to be a vagabond and a fugitive in the land? No, Cain went on to build a city, dude. Cain's bloodlines of children, he produces eventually the first metal worker of iron and brass, produces the first guy that makes the first musical instruments, produces the first people who were herders of animals, right on, produces the first tent dwellers. Can you dig it? So when you get done saying what you're saying, or whenever you say what you say, that has to be taken into consideration. It has to be. Because the linguistic relation between the Egyptian people and the so-called Greek people and the Romans is far closer related than that of any Indo-European group that you can compare to them, unless they're from the Mediterranean themselves. No Germanic people, none of that stuff have languages that even sound even close and similar or proximity. Yet, before the damn Visigoths, Ostrogoths, any of that shit are mentioned in history, the Romans had already oppressed the Hebrews. And they spoke a common language too between the two. So I don't understand how people don't see the discrepancies. They're major. I mean, the discrepancies are they're so big. If people stop trying to look for something big to find, they would see how big a small discrepancy like that is. People's own articles, their own articles are going against what they're saying. The dude tried to say the Greeks and the Latins and the Greeks were a swelter of smaller groups. Yet it took a smaller group to introduce this so-called fucking greater group into history and the people knowing about them. Man, get the fuck out of here. Only a dumbass motherfucker could believe that shit. Only a fucking moron could believe that shit. Okay? Because the unlearned are still going to ask, well, how does that actually make sense? Unlearned doesn't make you stupid. Unlearned doesn't make you senseless. Unlearned doesn't mean it to where you're totally unquestioning. Unlearned is just simply that, not formally educated. And a formal education doesn't mean that you don't have skills or understanding. So I can't stress that enough. The moron has propagated and perpetrated some of the worst lies ever. And they are the most common denominator for what goes wrong on planet Earth. I know people want to believe that these other races of people are so smart. They're not. These dudes are morons. They're stupid. Literally stupid. Literally effing stupid people who everyone gives credence to being something other than they're not. I don't believe it. It's bullshit. You know, it's bullshit. But because it's easy for people to accept that what is written, produced on a website, in a book, whatever, it makes it factual. Oh, they're on TV, so they must be right. Because people have this kind of mindset, this is why nothing good ever happens for them. Ever. Ever. And once again, they're trusting people that have shown they don't have the intellectual capacity to do anything for you or to help you. Repetitiously, they show you this. And repetitiously, what do people do? They go back to them. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. There's going to be a time where in which the moron and the unlearned are separated from amongst themselves. But the moron and the unlearned and the uneducated are right now to people, most eyes, they're the same thing. So before I end out, I just have to say this. If you believe that the people who murdered and killed slaves are the same as the people who betrayed, listen, who betrayed their successors before they were born, you are tripping. They're totally different parties. You're talking about one group who acted it out and then another group who didn't believe. It's totally different. Totally different. You're not going to tell me that the guys who beat slaves on the back were unlearned. Morons maybe, but they weren't unlearned. I have a hard time believing that everybody who disobeyed the commandments to why we're here now was a moron. I have a hard time believing that every single one of them knew better. Every single one of them was taught better. Because otherwise, the scripture wouldn't talk about sins of ignorance. Right. A man who is ignorant is unlearned. And an unlearned man will make mistakes, but not on purpose. The moron thinks he can rob a stagecoach, rob a bank, and get away with it. The unlearned are told that they can do as such and get away with it. Doesn't mean that they believe that. This is what they are told. The moron, though, in his heart and soul, in his mind, knows he can pull off a fucking heist. The unlearned doesn't even think like that. It's difference. You have one who is aware, one who is not aware. But because they're aware, it doesn't mean that they choose upon the best set of circumstances and decisions to make. That's not what that means. It just means that they have the ability to know what they're doing. A moron is a guy who sleeps with a woman who knows that she's married. You're a moron for that. Not only are you a debaucherous sinner, but you're a fucking moron, dog. The unlearned man, right? Listen, who doesn't know that she's married, he's just as wrong on the levels of morality whenever you get done saying everything, but he didn't know. So his sin of ignorance is not one of willful, wanton stupidity. Okay? They're totally different. They are so different. A man who drives fast because he's never driven a car before is totally different than a man who's speeding on purpose. They're not the same. And because people have been taught to believe and conditioned to believe that they are undoubtedly the same, people will continue to think this. It's inevitable. It's inevitable for people to believe that morons and ignorant people are the same going forward. Trust me, this changed nothing. Maybe in your life and in your minds and in your eyes, maybe, but this changes nothing for the world, dog. So just know that these people are just as moronic as they've ever been, all right? And they're just as unlearned as ever. And the unlearned are able to make look like a person who knows better and has gone against what it is that they know is better. Just because you're raised in the city doesn't mean you have etiquette, doesn't mean you have sense. But if you're raised in a place where certain cultural mannerisms are practiced, then you're going to understand those cultural mannerisms, unlearned or not. Now, the moron, what do? They do the abominable. They do the abominable. And they go against what it is that they already know is right. Every drug dealer you ever met who didn't know that they could go to prison for selling drugs, unlearned. Every drug dealer that you ever met who know that he could go to prison for selling drugs, moron. Just that simple. You have to be idiotically stupid to do something that you know leads to adverse consequences, and you do it anyway. You got to be hella stupid. The only person who has an excuse there is somebody who didn't know. And that doesn't excuse them from the consequences. It just excuses them from being presently knowledgeable of what they've done. Once the unlearned man has become learned, it is up to him to put forth and put to use the knowledge that he's learned. Otherwise, the unlearned man becomes the moron. It is always better to be unlearned than a moron. But it is better to be learned and to do better than it is to be a moron or the unlearned. It is not easy for any person of any ilk, no matter what they are, what they say they do, to just gather information and put it in their mind and make it make sense. I'm not saying that that's easy. I'm not even going to allude to that being easy. But what I think is foreseeable, what I think is feasible, is that people should stop giving their power of mind and knowledge to those who have none. These people have neither mind nor knowledge. Did you hear me? These people have neither mind nor knowledge. They're despicable. They're wickedly evil. And nothing will ever change. Nothing will ever change about that. They are going to be just that. If you can accept that, then you can accept all the things that come with them being a moron. The unlearned aren't wickedly evil, but they can learn to be wickedly evil, and then they'll become just what I just said, a moron. Because it takes a moron to know that there's a most high God of everything, a creator of everything, and to go willingly against what they know. You have to be a moron to do that. There has to be something mentally deficient and then spiritually deficient with you. You can't be learned and do that. I have a hard time thinking that a man that respects himself is going to disrespect the Most High knowingly. I have a hard time thinking that a man that is unlearned but fears the Most High would do something that he might even think is against the Most High. So he's only going to do what he knows to do. However, I just want y'all to take all this stuff into consideration. I'm one man. What I say don't mean shit. Doesn't change nothing. Don't mean nothing. But I've said it so that way it can be put out there to the universe. So there's no excuses. Come that day, come that time. See, in the age of technology, when it said that all shall see, it doesn't mean that they're going to perceive what they're seeing. These people know what it is that they're supposed to do. They understand what it is that they're supposed to do. They know it. beyond a shadow of a doubt. But what they've done is they've excused themselves from their responsibilities as responsible human beings. So because they've done this, my only option as the opposition is to speak on the despicable manner of those who choose to do as such. I try to do it in a way where in which I'm not so vulgarly offensive that people flag down the channel. But I do attempt to make it a point that uh, things that do matter, I talk about. Do I know that racism is real? Once again, of course. I would be a fucking moron to say that racism isn't real. What's not real, though, is people thinking that people that have, once again, recessive genetics will tell you that, that they have recessive genetics are better. It's just, it's a thought that is so far beyond me that I can't promote that to my people. I feel like that is intellectually dishonest, as I heard an individual say about actions that they felt that I took. That is intellectually dishonest, is to make your people feel or think that they are are somehow in some way, shape, and form lesser than the same wicked devils that are trying so hard to oppress them. No need to oppress somebody that's weaker than you. They're already weaker than you. What? What? I can already beat your ass. I can outrun you. I can outdo it. Why do I need to oppress you, dog? If I can do all that to you, it sounds so. It sounds so stupid. It sounds like the dumbest shit ever. Right? Black people. As I end this, and I say this right here, the moron will tell you there is no God. There are no morals. There is no right or wrong. The unlearned will say that they don't know that there's a God. They don't know about what is right or what is wrong. They know what feels good or what feels bad. But the other man, the man who's trying to be learned, the man who fancies himself learned, he normally says things like, there is a God. I will be judged, and all the things that I have done shall be brought to the forefront, and none of them shall be hidden. So, with that said, they can tell you that people were genetically related who are not, can't even prove it, and you can believe that, okay, because they're morons. Or you can tell yourself that being unlearned doesn't mean that I can't go out and find the information. That's just that simple. It's just that simple. Respect yourself. Respect yourself. I salute you guys. I love you very much. I love you very, very much. You be good this week, and we'll be at it later. About.